Greetings, my fellow fright fiends. It's your buddy Boogeyman Ben here for another episode of Boogeyman Ben's Horror Zone. And this one is a contest entry, and this is a contest entry for Joe Manganaro's 500 subscriber giveaway. Now, Joe Manganaro is a great guy. He's on YouTube. I've been following him for a while now. Does some really just a lot of his videos are just a lot of fun. He's always showcasing new collectibles that he gets for his little horror area. And he just hit 500 subscribers. He's probably hit more than that because this contest was posted a little bit earlier this month, but because of a lot of things that have been going on in my life, I haven't had a chance to enter it. And typically I don't do a lot of contest entries, but I thought this one would be kind of fun. He had two questions. If you do a video, he had two questions, and I'm going to answer both questions. The first question was, what is your favorite horror collectible? Now, as you can see from the room behind me, I have quite a few collectibles in this room. But there's one in particular, and the more that I think about it, the more that it means to me. And I think it's because this person that, this is not just like an object here, like a toy or something like that. This is actually a book. And it's one of the older things that I've had. I've actually had this book since I was 21. So we're going back to 1995. And the author of this book is no longer with us, and I'm talking about Miss Janet Leigh, who wrote this book called Behind the Scenes of Psycho. Now, I did a video on this book probably going back, God, at least close to 4 years ago, where I talked about this. I also put it into a video, I believe it was Michael Voorhees, or it could have been another YouTuber who asked me what my favorite collectibles were in this room, and it was, I mentioned the book in that video as well. This book means so much to me because I actually got to meet Janet Leigh, and as everyone may or may not know, Janet Leigh passed away in 2004. Psycho is one of my favorite films of all time. Next to Friday the 13th, the Psycho film series is my favorite horror movie series of all time. And I never got to meet Anthony Perkins. He died when I was 18. He had suffered from AIDS, and I was very sad that I never got to meet him and just tell him, you know, what a fan I was of his. But I did get to tell Janet Leigh what a fan I was of hers. And the story behind this is that my grandmother bought this book for me. I read it like in one day, I believe, and it's, you know, Janet Leigh talking about Psycho, with the impact it had on her when they filmed it. I mean, it's really interesting to read this book. A lot of people might not realize, but the shower scene for Psycho was shot Christmas week in 1959. So Janet Leigh said it was really, you know, interesting that during the day she was being stabbed in the shower, and at night she was wrapping Christmas presents for her family. So I always thought that was pretty interesting. But this book is personalized to me. I was the story behind this is that she was going to be in San Francisco at a bookstore, a very obscure bookstore that is no longer there, and she was going to be signing copies of this book. Now, the same day that this signing was going to take place, I had to go to the doctor. I had surgery on my ear. I had an earring here that got infected, and I just developed this massive scar tissue behind my ear, and I had surgery on my ear, so I had stitches in my ear, and I had to get the stitches out by a certain time that day. I believe it was 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock. But anyway, she was only going to be there from noon to 2, I believe. It was only like a 2-hour, 3-hour window, and I had never driven to San Francisco before in my life. So I remember I was driving my mom's old, I think it was a 1982 Isuzu, and I drove that to San Francisco. Now, this was before Google Maps and anything like that, so I just had the address of the bookstore, which I found in a phone book, and a map that was going to sort of take me, I can figure out where to park. And I just remember I kept getting, if you've ever been to San Francisco, you can get lost very easily. Lots of one-way streets, lots of streets where it's just like a one-way. So it's just like, I just kept going in a complete circle, and I could not find this bookstore to save my life. And I eventually just ended up parking in some random garage and running up to the bookstore. And I luckily found it, and she was there. There wasn't very many people there. I believe there was maybe 1 to 2 people in front of me. And I wish I would have had a camera with me or something, but I didn't even think about it. I just wanted to, you know, have her sign this book. And She was very sweet, very generous, very sweet woman. She was very tiny. I just remember shaking her hand, and her hand was so small. And she was probably in her 70s when I met her. But she did personalize this book to me. And if you can see it right there, it says to Ben, Janet Leigh. So the fact that, you know, this book means so much to me, and the fact that Miss Leigh is no longer with us, that's why this is one of the most precious things that I own in this collection. With all this cool stuff in here, this is the one that means the most to me. The second question was an ending for a film. If I could fix it, if there was a movie I had saw that I really didn't like, what would I do differently? I mean, in terms of the ending. Now, the only film that I can think of where I remember seeing it as a kid. Now, it's a film that I actually really like now. I really love the film. But I remember, and I've talked about it before, how much of a big fan I am of Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. Always will be my favorite Friday the 13th film. But I remember how disappointed I was at Friday the 13th Part 7, A New Blood, when I first saw it. I thought Kane Hodder was great as Jason, even though I was very upset to find out C.J. Graham was not playing Jason again. But I remember how disappointed I was in the ending of that film. Because it's just, if people haven't seen Friday the 13th New Blood, Jason, you know, is going out of the house. The house explodes, and then Jason is there on the dock. He attacks Tina. Nick tries to shoot him. He knocks Nick down. He's going to go and kill Tina, and then Tina's father magically appears out of Crystal Lake, having died many years before, looking just like he did when he died. He just has like a dirty face. He grabs Jason and he pulls him down into the water, and that's the end of the film pretty much. And I just thought, what a crappy ending. And there's a lot of stories about what happened there, that the associate producer vetoed John Carl Buechler's idea about having this ghoulish Mr. Shepard popping up and taking Jason down. And I just really wish, and that would have been so much better, just to at least have Mr. Shepard look like he had been rotting underneath Crystal Lake for all these years. And I wish they could have, and I know this isn't an ending that I made up, but I wish that could have been the ending. There's also an ending, like a deleted scene where Jason attacks a fisherman and pulls him under the water, showing that Jason is still alive. But I really wish they could have just made that ending so much better, because it was such a really kick-ass film. That movie got butchered by the MPAA anyway, so they had to cut a lot of the gore out and everything, so it just sort of lessens the impact of that film, because Kane Hodder is fantastic as Jason. He's one of my favorite actors to play Jason. He is, I mean, he's just amazing as the character, but that ending is just so terrible. As I've grown older and watched the film more and more, I've really come to appreciate Part 7, though. I just love the look of Jason in that film, but that ending is just so bad. I wish it could have been like, you know, maybe Mr. Shepard and Jason fighting at the end, or something better than just him grabbing Jason and pulling him down under the water and him just looking like he's got dirt on his face. It was just a terrible, terrible ending. So, Joe, I don't know if that's a good answer to the second question, but that's the only one I can think of where the ending just always bothered me. I mean, it took me until probably in my early 30s to get over that, and I saw that movie when I was 13. So that is it. So I've talked about my favorite collectible, an ending that I wish I could have changed, and congratulations, Joe, on your 500 subscribers. So thanks so much, everyone, for watching, and take it easy. Stay scared.